we're going to start following me through my program to see how you can best achieve muscle size, muscle density and hardness while reducing body fat. I'm also going to talk to you about my eating program, or my current eating program, where if you're going to follow me through this, you should be doing similar types of workouts and a similar type of eating program. We're also going to visit Dr. Jared Meakin, who's going to document and show you exactly what I did to gain 7 kilograms of muscle over 2.5 days. We're also going to have a brief discussion on anabolic steroids, and this whole process is designed to show you how I'm going to zero in to my lifelong best ever shape.
Yeah, so John's actually increased his weight by just over 7 kilograms in just over 2 days. John was in on Friday, and on the Friday he weighed in at 96.9 kilograms. And today he's weighed in on the scales at 104.3 kilograms, so that's a gain of just in excess of 7 kilograms. And the whole point behind today is we're hoping to see John's body fat percentage fall below 10%, and preferably around the 9.9% or lower. John's body mass index is 33, which is clinically obese. And when you hit a BMI over 40, you're morbidly obese. The other interesting point is if John took this body mass index result to his life insurer, they would dramatically increase his premium due to the fact that they would consider him unhealthy. But if we now look at John's abdominal musculature, you'll see that it's clearly visible. He's got clear delineation between the upper abdominals, and we can still see the lower abdominals. We can see the linea alba down the middle. So it really does highlight a point about the ridiculous nature of actually using a body mass index scale. Well, there was a 1.2 kilo gain in fat tissue in just over 2 days. A very, very small increase in fat tissue in that period of time. But what amazes me is the 6.3 kilo increase in muscle tissue that you've achieved in that same period of time. And you know, to my knowledge, there's no anabolic steroid that can actually achieve that sort of result in that smaller period of time. That's not how those drugs actually work. And it really highlights to me the incredible influence of diet upon one's composition, and how you can actually manipulate composition very easily with dietary manipulation. What you've done is natural. What you've done is what natural bodybuilders and what many bodybuilders would do prior to perhaps a competition, and it's a normal process within the one's physiology to be able to manipulate muscle and fat tissue in that manner.
So what is my body fat percentage today?
The body fat percentage today from the DEXA scan is 10.9%, which really is only a 0.3% increase from what you had 3 days or just over 2 days ago.
Oh, so you said with something else it's weird, wonderful and wacky that we can all learn from.
Fantastic. No, I look forward to it, John.
Good.
I'm learning a lot actually watching what you do.
And so am I. Now, this eating program is more about how to eat, not just what to eat. I'm going to show you some of the strategies that I use in order for everything to work for me. Now, this eating program has been designed around what I'm doing at the moment, and that is gaining pure muscle size and hardness along with density while reducing body fat. The exact quantities of the food you should be eating will be found in the accompanying booklet that comes with a DVD. Now, there's going to be weight ranges, and all you simply do is you eat the amount of food that's specified within your weight. So for instance, if you weigh 70 kilograms, you will be eating for the 70 to 80 kilogram range, which is all explained in the booklet. Now, this eating program, the way I've put it together, may not be the most ideal eating program, but by far it is the most efficient, and it'll help you with time management. For instance, in the morning when all this food is prepared, because I prepare my food all in the morning, my wife helps me with it. Some days she does it, Some days I help out a little bit. It all becomes very simple because while, for instance, I'm preparing breakfast, the rice is being microwaved, which is going to be my lunch or the carbs for the day. So I try and do all of that. I weigh all my food. It is imperative that you know exactly how much you're getting. Now, you don't have to weigh your food every time you eat, but I want you to weigh it at least once to get an idea of how much a 100 gram portion of meat is. Then after that, you can simply measure it in a cup, and you know that if you're using a cup of meat, it's going to weigh a certain amount, and it's going to have so many calories and all the other nutrients, which will be found in a booklet that's accompanying the DVD. You know, I want you to do things like, for instance, with your protein portions, we have a thing that's called the protein exchange. So if I've told you that in your weight category you should be eating 200 grams of roast turkey and you don't feel like roast turkey, you can have any other protein source that you like, which may include fish, chicken, lean pork, beef, lamb, or tuna fish. Okay, so that's the protein exchange. The carbs have to be pretty much kept to the level that is required within your eating range. So there's a whole bunch of little strategies that you'll see along the way, and you'll wonder, why is he doing this? And it's all been designed just to make everybody's life easier, not just for you, but also for the people around you. So you don't have to spend the whole day being a scientist with your food. You can actually have a job, you can have a social life, and still get in great shape. Now, there's a very important aspect here which we must all adhere to. I do it this way. I simply fill this up first thing in the morning and I carry it with me in a bag, because that's water. And it's very important to stay hydrated throughout the whole day. Now, if you're a hard training athlete, you should have no less than 15 glasses of water a day. It is very important because 70% of our muscles are made of water. So along with the protein, the carbohydrates, the fruits and vegetables, the water is very, very important, which will also help transport all these vitamins and minerals into your bloodstream and through your digestive system. Now, it's also important at this stage to be taking a small amount of supplements, and I recommend a very good protein powder. Now, I'm not going to specify which type of protein powder, but I'd like it to be low in carbohydrates. Now, for me, what I do first thing in the morning when I have my first meal, which is actually a protein shake, I'll either have just raw egg whites with something else put in there, which could be a little bit of vegetable juice or possibly a little bit of fruit juice and water. Or like I did this morning, I used two different types of protein powders, a fast-acting one and a short-acting one. So I mixed that with some light fruit juice and water. So that shunts the nutrients into the muscle cells as quickly as possible. So with the short-acting protein powder and the small amount of fruit juice, that'll get something into the cells immediately. The long-acting protein powder kicks in a little while later, and you've got nutrients going through your system for most of the morning until you have your next meal, which means you're in positive nitrogen balance. Other meals that I have would be my second meal, which is actually breakfast, and that is egg whites with an egg yolk, scrambled. I have either oatmeal or rice porridge and a piece of fruit with coffee. So that's my second meal. Then the rest of the meals for the day may look something like this. Now right here, I have a specified amount that's been weighed of minced meat, which is low in fat. These are my vegetables, and the carbohydrates that are going to go with this particular meal are right here, which is oatmeal, and that's one of my favorite carbs. My other meal is chicken breast cut in strips, vegetables, actually this is a salad with some avocado, and rice as my carbohydrate source. And the supplements that I'm taking at the moment are a big variety of supplements. However, for yourself, along with a good protein powder, I require you to have at least one multivitamin and mineral tablet per day. Now, as we go on, I'll start letting you know about other supplements that you should be putting in, like fat burners, creatine monohydrate, possibly a second shake during the day to boost up protein levels. We'll manipulate the carbohydrates. And in the following months, you can look forward to another interesting DVD that we're going to shoot, and that's how to dial in the maximum amount of definition. So you get all that separation, cuts that are going to show the muscle hardness, low body fat levels, and all that means you're going to look ripped. So one thing I want to make clear to you, bodybuilding, or being a successful bodybuilder, is not just about having good genetics. But what's more important is making the right choices. This is why with Hardcore Body Renovator and my 35 years of experience, it's going to be invaluable to you. Now, some of the things that I do that help me may be of great benefit to you. You know, one of my secrets, for instance, is having a wife who's also a bodybuilder. She knows everything there is to know about nutrition. She actually prepares most of my food, and she knows exactly the amounts of everything that I've got to have as specified to her, just by writing it out on a piece of paper. So, you know, that's a big help to me. That's one of my secret weapons. My mother's the same. So yes, you may not have something like that available to you, but nothing stops you from learning it and doing it yourself. Now, I get that sort of help because I have a very busy life, and it's like I scratch their back, they scratch my back. You know, I've got kids, I've got businesses I've got to run, and I require that type of help. Now, you may not be as busy as me, but you're certainly going to learn a lot about strategizing and making the right choices as we go along throughout this whole series. Today we're going to be training back, trapezius, lower back, and at the end of the workout, depending on how I feel, I may do abdominal work or calf work. Now, throughout the workout, I'm going to be taking articles of clothing off and putting them back on. That's because I may be getting overheated, and when I put them back on, it's because I want to get warm again. Now, I'm going to be using various devices like the straps around the elbows to protect my elbows and stop myself from getting tennis elbow. I'm also going to be using straps which are available on the website. These are especially made straps which are really good for training back because they take your grip out of the equation, and then you can practically hold on to whatever amount of weight you want without having to concentrate on holding the weight. So you can actually concentrate on working the back. I'm also going to be wearing a belt to protect my lower back and help remind me that I should keep the correct posture while doing back. I'm going to be starting with some rehabilitation exercises for the shoulder girdle, and then I'm going to be doing various chin-ups, deadlifts, rowing exercises, and some of these exercises are merely just to get a mind-to-muscle connection. So let's start. I'm now showing you the internal and external rotations for the rotator cuffs. These are just laying down presses which further stabilize the rotator cuff muscles, and these are bent forward laterals, which are another stabilization exercise for the rotator cuff. Still warming up here. You know, we're stretching the back, lower back, and hamstrings, so when we finally get to the heavier exercises, everything is nice, loose and warm, so we can prevent injury. Some seated twists, which are a good exercise to warm up the core stability muscles, seated and also in a bent over position, which further warm up the area. So now, as I do these deadlifts, you're going to see various grips coming into play. I'll sometimes do that type of gripping or that type of gripping, and as it gets heavier, to keep everything even, it'll just be a regular grip. Okay, so just before we start, I thought I'd let you know that I may not start with those straps. because my elbows are actually feeling quite good. So I'll use them a little bit later as I pile on the weight. And that also goes for the belt as well. Okay, now as we deadlift, you can see how I'm adjusting the grip here. Now, the deadlift is a total back exercise. So we're not only working the lower back, but we're contracting the whole back when we get to the top of the movement, including the trapezius muscles, and this really is one of the best basic movements you can do for your whole back, which also affects the buttocks and the back of the legs, which is the hamstrings. We're putting more weight on, and we're repeating the same movement again, probably with a hands reversed now. And again, this is still warming up to the final weight that we're going to use, which will be our work set. As you can see, there's a deliberate squeeze at the top. We now load further weight on. This is still a fairly comfortable weight. However, we are going to use straps and a belt just to secure everything, so I can really concentrate on the back to get the best workout possible. As you can see, the legs there straining against this. This is a very good basic exercise, which should be included in almost every back workout. Always remember to hydrate throughout the workout. Now with chins, it's important on an exercise like this that you're anchored to the bars correctly. You pull up as far as you can. The more you practice this exercise, the better you will get at it. I haven't been doing this for a considerable amount of time, so it has not come easy to me. However, with practice, I do get a lot better. Now we're changing the grip, so each time we do a set, it's a different grip, which works a slightly different area of your back for more complete development. So as you can see here, we're performing 3 sets. I would like to get 10 reps. And once you get to 3 sets of 10 reps, you can either add a little bit of weight or slow the movement down to make it harder for yourself. Now, one arm rows are one of my favorite back exercises because it allows you to stretch completely at the bottom, and it also allows for a complete contraction at the top. And because you're working one arm at a time, it gives you better contraction on either side of your back. Again, we're working up in weight here. All the sets are vital, except by the 3rd set, you're ready to use your heaviest weight. And again, with a complete stretch and a contraction at the top while you rest the other arm on a bench, or as I'm doing here, on a dumbbell rack. So at the moment here I'm up to my heaviest weight, which I'm still handling with relative ease. This is an exercise which I'm quite strong at, but I try not to use my biggest weights because I'm actually after the field. I normally perform barbell shrugs from the front. Sometimes I use dumbbells, but today I'm performing them from the rear, because not only does it hit a different part of the traps, which stands for trapezius muscles, the contraction that you get throughout the whole movement also hits the middle of the trapezius, the middle of the upper back, the rhomboids, and the infraspinatus. So now for people who haven't performed this exercise before, it's vitally important that you not only use a belt and straps, but that you also start with a weight which allows you to do the movement correctly. And if there's any sort of impinging or pain, please avoid it. This last movement that I'm doing for the back is generally done for the back of the shoulders, which are known as the rear deltoids, and I'm actually using the Nautilus rear deltoid machine to achieve this. However, what I'm concentrating on is on either side of the back, there's a ball of muscle on each side right underneath the rear deltoids, which houses the infraspinatus, rhomboid, teres major, and teres minor. Now, when you watch me perform this exercise, I'm actually bringing my elbows back and contracting those muscles, and also twisting my elbows in a manner which will contract them. So this is not a full rear shoulder exercise. It is for the two areas that I've just mentioned. So watch me do this and watch carefully, okay? Because this is a detail exercise. So now I've done several basic exercises, so the back is already quite fatigued. As you can see here, I'm doing my very best to try and get that contraction, as I have explained. And you'll see the results when I pose my back. It's going to have much more detail than what I've ever had before, because this is actually a new exercise which I haven't performed on a regular basis. It's very important, especially for the back, to stretch each side of your back on its own and together. There should already be blood within the muscle, so this is going to allow lactic acids to leave the muscle, recuperate, and also help with muscular development. Because if you can stretch the fascia of the muscle will have more room to grow. And again, we stretch everything from the latissimus dorsi to the lower back, buttocks and hamstrings. This is another rotator cuff stabilization exercise, which is also good for the lower back. And we finish off with a good stretch at the end of it. There you go, right there. Stretch, stretch, and we're done. Now, we're doing this one calf movement, which is leg press calf raises on a pin-loaded leg press machine, which allows me to finish the set, simply replace the pin to a heavier weight and continue. This is again something that I'm doing at the end of a back workout to throw some more blood into the calf muscles, which I feel need the extra work. So it's just this one exercise, which will be totally different to the next calf workout that we do. Now I'm taking a slight rest when I change the weight. I could probably use a lot more weight here if I rested longer, but by taking the shorter rests, you're keeping the blood within the muscles. You don't have to go as heavy and still get good results. So I keep on increasing the weight, and when I get to a point where it's too much, I'll reduce it and keep going, as long as I can keep that tension on the calves. And we always finish with some sort of stretching here, as you can see me doing. There's more freehand stretching. It's an absolute must for your calves. Otherwise I'll tighten up and seize up on you. And again, we're releasing the lactic acid here with these stretches. I usually do 2 to 3 stretches. Now this is for the lower back and basically the whole back. When you're in this position, it allows for the fluid in your back to circulate. This is another movement which also allows for that, which is rarely done, and it's just like creating traction for your back. So any compression that has been done through the workout now gets released. And I always finish off with cardio, because once you've burnt up all the carbohydrates by lifting weights, the only thing that's left to burn now is body fat. Today we're working chest. Some of the exercises I do today may be performed in superset style. I'll usually decide that during the workout. Again, I'm going to start with the regular rotator cuff exercises to activate the rotator cuffs, which are very important, especially before any shoulder or chest work. So again, I'm doing the rehabilitation exercises as I did in day one. I use them as a warm-up. We're starting with decline barbell bench press. And this exercise for me is very much about feeling it. So you can see the movement here, increasing weight each set. I could probably do a lot heavier weight, but that's not what I'm after here. Because you know, I haven't done this exercise for a long time, and I want to get the right feeling before I start to pile on any weight. Again, it's all about feeling the muscle work. You know, once you've worked the muscle in this manner with slow, continuous repetitions, and the muscle is full of blood, you know you're going to get growth. Then what I do is I finish off by stripping the weight and going for more reps. So at the end of all this, I will be fully pumped. The last time my body was reacting the way that it is now was when I was in my early 20s. And because of circumstances which I'll cover in another episode, I was set off track, and that's actually why I ended up winning the NABBA Amateur Mr. Universe when I was actually training for the IFBB Mr. Universe. I was thrown off track for a particular reason, and it's taken this long for me to be able to get my body back into synchronization, where from workout to workout, even under the most extreme conditions, I'm making gains and constant improvement. So I just hope I'll be able to use it for something positive, because I'm really surprised at how everything's coming together, which means I've got the diet right and I've got my training right, and everything that I'm doing is just creating this synergistic effect that I haven't had in years. Now with flies, because of the shoulder surgeries that I've had, I have to be very, very careful. One of the things that I've learned to do is be very careful of the stretch that I get at the bottom of the movement. For me, it has to be done very slowly, which in turn actually gives me a better contraction on the pectoral muscles and actually helps with development. Being careful with this exercise. Flies are one of the better exercises to bunch up the pecs and get them big, full and round. You work up to your maximum weight over 3 sets. So we will have done 3 sets of declines for 8 to 12 repetitions, and 3 sets of flies also for 8 to 12 repetitions. We finish off with incline, and with incline I make sure that I don't lower it all the way to the chest, because that's when the shoulders get stressed the most. So I superset incline and pec deck. This assures me that every angle of the pectoral muscles will be worked and fully pumped. And keep it really strict, slow, and feeling every inch of the movement. Breathing throughout the whole exercise is very important. And again, we're performing 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions on each movement, with the last 2 movements being supersetted. I take it all the way till I reach failure. Then again, I strip the weight and continue for a further pump on the pecs. This is a very complete workout for me. Very happy with this. We're now going to finish off with a superset of seated machine bench press, supersetted with dumbbell pullover, just as a final pump to the chest. And then I'm going to do some abdominal work. Generally my chest workout would have already been finished, but because I know that I needed to bring my chest up a little bit more, these last two movements really assure me that I've done all my basic exercises, stretched the chest, and I'm just going for that fuller development. Again, everything is done nice and slow with concentration to feel every inch of the movement. And I'm adjusting the weight on each set also. Sometimes I move the weight up, sometimes I move the weight down, depending, and it's all by feel. Again, this is something that I always do when I know I need to bring my pectoral muscles up. Otherwise, I generally don't do this many movements. Always finish off with a good stretch. This type of stretching helps release lactic acid and helps with muscle recovery. Okay, so I've just finished 16 sets of chest work. We're now going to go straight into abdominals because the blood is firmly sitting in the chest and it doesn't have very far to travel now into the abdominal area. So I'm going to do 3 abdominal exercises, 3 sets of 20 each, and they're going to be done in a tricep fashion. I really do love this sort of abdominal work. Doing 3 exercises like this in a row really contracts everything. By the end of this workout, generally my stomach is pumped. It's had a lot of blood go to it, which to me is a good thing because you're taking blood to the central part of your body, which actually, believe it or not, also helps with your lower back. So here I'm doing crunches, twists, and end of bench leg raises, non-stop. You can see here the abdominal muscles are getting contracted quite well. In fact, generally when I contract them in a standing position, I can't get the third row to come up looking as well as what it was just a second ago when you were looking at my stomach. And this twisting exercise is really good for the sides of the stomach to help give it that picture frame look. It's very important to not do these exercises too fast and keep on breathing. You can see I'm always touching my stomach to help with the feel. I am a believer in a low number of sets done intensely and also in volume work. However, whichever training method I use, even the cameraman noticed it, I arrive last in the gym and I'm usually the first to leave. That's got to tell you something. Hi, we're now going to train arms. Now I have 2 particular methods that I really like for training arms. One is supersetting, which is supersetting opposing muscle groups. So that means for every bicep exercise that I do, or every set I do for my biceps, I follow that up with a set immediately for my triceps. So that's one of my favorite methods. The other one is giant setting, which we're going to cover in another DVD. So today I want to show you how I blow my arms up and pump them up to the max by doing superset. This is one of my favorite growth strategies. Now watch carefully because this is a beauty. I'm now doing something that usually people of my caliber never do, and that's to let you see them with completely cold muscles, completely unpumped, depleted, okay? So this is it now. Now what you're gonna see is quite a big transformation. So I'm gonna get started now. Okay, this is the preacher bench, which allows you to perform a really strict movement for the biceps. There's not too many exercises for the biceps that feel as good as the preacher bench. And lying extensions, this exercise here will really help pack the meat on your arms, especially the tricep muscles, which makes up a larger part of the arm than what the bicep muscles do. Now going back and forth like this, from curling exercises to lying extension exercises as I'm doing, really helps fill the blood, it really helps fill the arm up with blood. And I don't think there's too many things that feel better than a full pump in the arms. As you're going to see any minute now, the pump that I will have attained. And you can see here, even though I'm moving through the workout quite rapidly, each movement is performed slowly with an intentional squeeze of the muscles. My arms are really, really strong, but I find in order to create growth, I've had better results by going lighter and really concentrating on the muscle, not so much on how much I'm lifting. It's very important for the arms, more so than any other body part. I know the first Mr. Olympia, Larry Scott, used to train heavy, but the main secret was he used to get a tape measure, and as he did this type of workout, he'd see how much blood he could push into the arms, and he'd get to a point where he'd have this huge pump, and if he did any further sets, the pump would start to subside, and that's his technique that he used to build some of the biggest arms that you've ever seen on any human being. Larry Scott, our first Mr. Olympia. He was actually Mr. America, Mr. Universe, and Mr. Olympia. He won those titles with the IFBB Federation. And this particular exercise here was his favourite move. This is the preacher bench, but some people call it the Scott bench because he made it so famous. Again, you can see here I'm using 130 pounds and it doesn't look very heavy. I could go considerably heavier, but I think I would start to lose the feel if I did that. And again, to get that further pump, I reduced the weight on each set. These are called drop sets. So you saw I did that on the preacher bench and also on the lying extensions. So it's 3 sets each, but on that last set, I do 3 drops, which really brings a lot of pump to the arms. By the end of this, they're really getting full of blood. This is also one of my favorite exercises here. It's some people call it the spider curl. Some people call it the barbell concentration curl, and this is the standing 2-arm dumbbell extension. And as you can see, I move through this one quite rapidly. I don't lock out at the top, it's unnecessary. And again, it's back and forth. By this time now, my arms are starting to really get a great pump. All these arm exercises are my absolute favourites. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really enjoying myself here. And right here now, just shaking the arm and getting that last bit of blood in there. As you can see here, even with light weights now, they're starting to get really hard, which is really, really good because this way you don't need heavy weights. Some of the movements are just very short movements. Not every movement that I do has to be full range. This is hammer curls, which hits the brachialis, and the brachialis muscle sits between the bicep and the tricep. And if you want big arms, you've got to bring up the brachialis, because even though you may have large biceps and triceps, the brachialis helps push both muscles out, which gives you more size. It's that simple. See here, they're all partial movements. I feel that if I actually did a full movement on this one, I wouldn't get the same results. So again, here I'm breaking the rules, but in order to break the rules, you've got to know the rules. Okay, now if you can't tell the difference between the beginning of the workout when I was cold and what I look like now, there's a good chance you may need glasses. My arms are pumped up at least 1 inch or more, and how's that? So that's it. That's the end of the upper arm workout. I'm now going to put my shirt back on so I can stay nice and warm, and we'll finish off with forearms. Okay, these are wrist extensions, and I'm supersetting these with wrist curls. So there you go, these are the wrist curls right at the end of the bench, which I prefer doing them this way. It gives me a better feel. I don't do a lot of forearm work, but whatever I do works very well because the forearms are already pumped. Again here, no need to go heavy. You have to feel the muscle and just really get the blood in there. Finish off with stretching, which again stretches the fascia of the muscle, which is really good to do when the arm is full of blood because that'll really help stretch it. It's going to cause growth. It's as simple as that. Stretching the bicep here on either side, and one more tricep stretch, and then we go straight into stretching the forearms, which is vital. So we're stretching the extensors and flexors of the forearms here. And we finish off with cardio for fat burning. Today we're working shoulders. Now at the beginning of every other upper body workout, I've done rotator cuff exercises to stabilize and warm up the rotator cuff with dumbbells. However, today we're going to use elastics. They hit the rotator cuffs from a slightly different angle, and it's a different type of resistance. So here I'm demonstrating external rotation. It's a very short move. You don't have to go any further than this. Either side. And then we go straight into shoulder work. These are machine laterals, which allow me to concentrate completely on the shoulder muscles, which are also known as the delts or deltoids. And you can see I'm moving quite rapidly here, and I'm doing sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. Bent over rear laterals. This is going to be one of my favorite rear deltoid exercises because I'm using one arm at a time, and it's a cable which allows me to really squeeze it at the top. This is another exercise where you shouldn't be using a lot of weight. You should really go for the feel on this one. This one is one of those movements where I'm actually doing complete range of motion, full stretch and full contraction. These are dumbbell bent over laterals. Very important for me to have good rear deltoids because they not only help with posture, they also look fantastic while you're standing side on, and this also helps work the back. Now this one's called dumbbell high pulls, where again it's a basic movement that's hitting the side of the shoulders that gives you the width. As you can see here, the deltoids are really starting to pop. And I finish off with a hammer strength press. The good thing about this is I'm sitting in a machine, the shoulders are already been pre-exhausted, and there's very little chance of getting hurt here. I'm not using much weight, but this is all I can handle after all the work that I've done. Finish off with stretching the shoulder. This is a rear shoulder stretch, putting your arm across the body and holding it. And this is another movement that stretches the whole shoulder girdle. This particular stretch is a really good one for me, especially after the shoulder operations that I've had. You can see now it's coming quite easy. It was not always this way. Now we've just completed the shoulder workout. We're going to do calves. Now the last calf workout we did was at the beginning of this week, and I performed it after the back workout. It was one calf exercise and I did 5 sets of 20. Sometimes I do 10 sets of 10, which is the same amount of repetitions. Now today I'm going to be doing seated calf raises and standing calf raises with no breaks in between. So it's going to be one giant set where I'm going back and forth from standing to seated without stopping. It should create a really good pump. Standing calf raises really get that squeeze at the top with a full stretch at the bottom. Seated calf raises, you can see I'm holding my calves there because I actually want to feel what I'm doing. Believe it or not, this helps me greatly. These are 2 basic exercises. The last time I worked the calf, I did one exercise on its own, and that's when I told you the next calf workout would be totally different, and this is the different calf workout. So combined with the other exercise that I did on another day, a couple of days later doing this is giving me all the calf work that I need. And this type of behavior going back and forth is perfect for calves because you're walking on them all day and you need something like this to really get them moving. As you can see, I adjust the weight as I go, as long as I'm feeling that special feeling that I need, that I know is going to make me grow. Sets and reps here, I would say 3 sets of 10, 15 reps. Adjust the weight, don't go lower than 8 reps on any of these exercises. You really need the high reps for calves because of the amount of red fibers that they have. And we finish off with some severe stretching here because that's what the calves need. You don't want those muscles locking up on you. Trust me, you won't be able to walk. Okay, it's like 2 or 3 different stretches here, which will stretch every facet of the muscle. This has been a hard week of training. Today's the last training day, and then I take 2 days off. Now today we're going to do thighs and abdominals. Yes, I know we did abdominals earlier in the week, but at this moment I am doing abdominals twice a week. We're going to do different exercises than what we did in the last workout, so please follow me through. Today's going to be exciting. I love starting with this particular exercise because I'm getting a contraction in the hamstrings from the word go. One leg at a time, squeezing it at the top is just absolutely fantastic for me. You want to give this a try. Same for the front of the thigh, you know, one-legged leg extensions, works each thigh separately, which really prepares it for what's coming next. We always start light and work up. Now, this is a laying leg curl, which now is a basic movement. So I've already contracted the muscle severely, and now I'm moving back and forth between both movements, and you can see the back of the hamstring here looks like it's going to jump out any second. And believe me, it feels as good as what it looks. Single leg extensions now, we're starting to pile on the weight and the muscle is getting a nice contraction. And I particularly like this machine that I'm using because it really allows me to lock it out at the top. And back to the laying leg curls. This exercise is great for the hamstrings and even the buttocks, as you can see. By now I'm getting a severe pump in the hamstrings. I don't know how much longer I can go here because 3 sets of about 10 repetitions is about all I can take on each one of these exercises. Again, I could use a lot more weight than this, but that's not the point of the workout. Some of my best growth has occurred by lowering the weights, slowing the movement down, and really contracting. I didn't always have buttocks and hamstrings that look like this. And that's because I was generally going too heavy. You know, then we finish off with squats here. The legs are already pre-exhausted. I would be a fool if I used too much weight. Now, there you are. I'm on camera now and I can see how low I'm going. This is just above parallel, which is enough for me. Going any lower than this could help, but I get great growth by moving through this range, especially doing squats last. You know, and I'm increasing the weight on each set. A lot of people wear these compression suits for various reasons. The only reason why I'm wearing it is because it makes me look like a superhero while I take the workout, and that's not a joke. However, what I did want to explain to you before I do my final set of squats, I'm going to be wearing these knee wraps because to some degree they do help keep the knee in place. Now, it's not a terribly heavy weight. I can go a lot heavier than that, but that's not the purpose of the workout. So you don't need to go ultra heavy all the time. So now finishing off with this much weight through that range of motion, you can rest assured that I've gotten a really good thigh workout. I'm making it look a lot easier than what it really is, guys. This was a good workout. Now, you know, you've got to be a real daredevil to do this after what I've just done, but this exercise is a must-do if you want those buttocks and hamstrings and also the separation in your thighs. This is one version of the lunge, which is called the walking lunge. There are other times when I do dumbbell lunges or I do this particular exercise while I'm standing still in front of the squat rack. Be very careful and be steady while you're doing this. You really need to have good balance. Otherwise, just stand in front of the squat rack and do one leg at a time. I just wanted to talk about some of the abdominal exercises that I'm going to perform today. Some of them you don't see performed in a gym any longer. I'm going to be doing a tricep. Again, it's going to be this particular exercise here, which is known as the Roman chair sit-ups. And it's an exercise that you just don't see performed anymore. This was an exercise that Frank Zane and Arnold Schwarzenegger used to use to their best advantage in the 70s. The person who really made this exercise famous was a man by the name of Zabo Korzewski, who recently passed away. And this guy had the best abdominals you've ever seen. So this is an old school exercise, and what I'd like to stress to you is generally with these exercises you can crank out dozens of repetitions, but the point here being that we want to get a contraction in the abdominal area. So 12 of these done with a deliberate contraction at the end of the movement is going to be much more effective and more beneficial than doing, say, 20 or 30 or even 40 or 50 of these so-called exercises without getting a proper contraction. So unless you're a highly trained athlete who has done these every day for the last few years, there's no way that you're going to be able to get the correct benefit from these exercises simply by just throwing your body weight around. So it's a strong contraction at the end of the movement, and follow me through and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. As you can see, there's a deliberate stop at the top. I'm really squeezing those abdominals now. I don't want to go back any further than this. This is all that's required. This is the hip flexor exercise, which really complements the Roman chair sit-ups that I just did. Again, using the twisting bar. Actually, this is a broomstick. You'll create that picture frame look around the abdominals. And trust me, this is particularly hard after the leg workout. I want you to note something. At the moment, I've almost finished my abdominal workout and I should do about 45 minutes of cardio. However, I can feel that my central nervous system is actually being overstimulated. So instead of finishing the third round of abdominal exercises, I'm actually going to call it quits and I'm not going to do any cardio. This is where sometimes listening to your coach could be a big mistake, because if this guy's pushing you to train and you instinctively know that you shouldn't be, no one knows better than yourself. Okay, so you really have to be in tune with your body. Now, if you keep up with a body renovator system, you're going to learn about all of this. You won't find a better coach. Okay, so now we finish with the final stretching, which is absolutely vital, especially for legs. Legs and back, you must stretch. If I go a week or two without stretching legs and back, you can rest assured I'm going to end up with some sort of problem. It's as simple as that. And that brings us to the end of my 5-day whole body workout. I want to have a little discussion about steroids, but I wanted this whole theory on steroids. Number one, I don't advocate them, okay? Number two, when I competed in Australia and won every title that I did in Australia, I never used the stuff. I also competed and placed in my first world title without using them. I didn't go around bragging that I was able to do all of that without using steroids. I competed against people who were using them, and it was my choice not to use them. One of the biggest shocks I got was when I came back to Australia and in my last contest and retired, I was actually thinking of doing natural competitions until natural competitors that compete in these contests heard about it and they started approaching me on how they could best pass the drug test, which put me in a mild state of shock, because I thought to them, like, you're competing in a natural contest. Isn't a whole point here to not use them and compete on your own merits? So even some natural competitors are using anabolic steroids. So that totally turned me off competing as a natural because of that particular incident. Now, having said that, everything has a place in bodybuilding, and natural competitions, like all the other federations, whether they're natural or non-natural, are all great, except the only mistake they're making is they're going around pretending they're so great and calling themselves natural, because they claim they don't use any of these substances. I'm sorry, but a lot of your competitors are not natural. They have admitted that to me. So that was a little bit disappointing. But I'm sure they have their procedures to catch these sort of people. So, steroids are rife. Now, having said that, and all the hoopla and fuss that's made over them, how dangerous are these drugs? Like, why do they even make them? If they're so dangerous, why are they making them? They actually make them for therapeutic benefits. In fact, your grandmother or some little old lady that you see at the bus stop hunched over is probably on anabolic steroids, and she doesn't know it, and neither does the family. The family doctor does, though, okay? Because they're actually made to make frail people healthy. So in one way, a healthy athlete really has no right using them. And when they do use them, you can use all the steroids you want. If you're not eating correctly, how do you expect to make any gains? You can't just take them and muscles automatically grow out of nowhere. You actually have to train and you have to eat. Now, having said that, why do bodybuilders get the worst rap and will get labelled as steroid users? Well, this is what I believe. I have seen many cyclists who have been caught using anabolic steroids. They've admitted to it and they got banned. And when you look at these people's physiques, they do not look like they take steroids, because they're using them to enhance their performance. and their training is geared towards a particular goal. Now with bodybuilders, I think the main reason why we get accused of it more than anybody else is because we look the part. If you've never taken a steroid, okay, and you build your muscles up, and you do that by lifting weights and putting resistance on the muscles. That's how you make your muscles grow. So you pump your muscles up with weights, okay, then you lose body fat to make that even more apparent. So you build your muscles by lifting weights and eating a good eating program that's got enough protein and carbohydrates and other nutrients in it in order to support the muscle growth. Okay, we define the muscle by reducing body fat levels. Then we shave the muscle, we tan it, we put oil on it, and voila, you look like a bodybuilder. When a general public sees this, they automatically label you as a steroid user, even though you may never have used them. So we have that to contend with. And like I said, other athletes who have been caught using them don't even look like they have used them. So you can't judge a book by its cover. Remember that. Also, how dangerous are they? You know, if somebody came to me and said, here, I'm giving you 5 bottles of pills to take, and which one of these do you know that you can swallow the whole bottle and still be alive afterwards? Okay, let's take a prescription diuretic, Lasix, which you can get from any doctor. And most people who have hypertension or have had some sort of heart problem, high blood pressure, will get given Lasix, as Lasix makes you urinate and actually lowers your blood pressure. And it also has other therapeutic benefits. Now, if you swallow a whole bottle of Lasix, you're dead. Okay, let's take potassium, which you could actually get from a health food store. If you took enough potassium and you had a whole bottle of potassium, your heart's probably going to stop. Again, you're dead and you've swallowed a whole bottle of potassium. Now let's take another prescription item, which is a muscle relaxant called Valium. You swallow a whole bottle of Valium, you will never wake up. Let's take an over-the-counter prescription drug like aspirin. You swallow a whole bottle of aspirin, it's going to burn a hole in your stomach and you will die. Now let's take a popular anabolic steroid called Dianabol, and you have a bottle of Dianabol sitting there, 105 milligram tablets. Out of all the drugs that I've mentioned, which one do you know that you can swallow the whole bottle and still be alive afterwards? I would pick the Dianabol. Okay, you may or may not get an upset stomach after doing it. You may or may not get an increased temperature, and you may or may not break out in a little bit of acne, but you're certainly not going to die from it. So what does that tell you about the culture that's being created out there about drugs in general? People have got it wrong. Having said that, I do not advocate steroids. Now, some athletes use huge amounts of anabolic steroids, and why is that? It's called adaptation. After about 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months of using them, your body's going to start adapting. So where do you go? So where do you go to next? Increase the dosages or stop and start all over again? So generally an athlete will increase the dosages and carry on with their training. They'll probably get to the point where they're taking so much that it's going to look like they're crazy, but in actual fact, all that's happened is their body's adapted. So whatever you see me do in the gym is the genuine article. I really train that way and I really eat that way. So you're really getting to see everything that I do and all my little secrets, which you may not even pick up the first time you look at these DVDs. So I hope you enjoy.